You, Shirley. I too would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, in my case, the Wanneroo people, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. May one day this nation mature sufficiently to right the wrongs perpetrated against the oldest living culture in the world. May I thank the Australian Anti-AUKUS Coalition, particularly Bevan and Shirley, for inviting me to step in as moderator for Mary Kostakidis this evening. As Shirley said, Mary is unwell and sends her...
You have to have some water.
And if we could just mute our microphones, that'd be terrific. As we all know, Mary is an important, fearless and authentic voice in the geopolitical space and has much to contribute to this topic specifically and to the national conversation more broadly. And I take this opportunity to wish her a speedy recovery. The topic of this webinar is Independence Breaking the US Stranglehold on Australia. Understandably, that has generated a great deal of interest. Thank you for joining us. This evening's panellists individually and collectively bring depth of knowledge, experience, wisdom, and energy to the conversation. Each of our panellists will speak for 10 minutes, which permits 15 minutes for questions at the end of the webinar. The aim is to conclude this webinar by 7:40 p.m. because our speakers and yourselves, no doubt, have other commitments to attend to. Last week's US presidential debate had an end of empire feel to it. The Supreme Court's decision on presidential immunity added to that. With its long history of fomenting coups and leading allies into expensive military disasters, its social and economic internal disintegration, and the waning of its international financial supremacy, particularly evidenced by an expanding BRICS, its questionable sanctions regime, and its loss of petrodollar status, many citizens around the world are not only questioning the good sense of their country's alliance with the United States, but also asking who is running the United States and with what objectives. Its leader obviously lacks the mental capacity to lead it and has for some time. President Biden's inauguration took place in January 2021. AUKUS was signed off in September that year and announced at a press conference where he couldn't even remember Scott Morrison's name. And last week's presidential debate was the evidentiary coup de grace. Of course, the alternative to Biden is Trump. Vacuous irrationality and mendacity replacing infirmity. When both are underwritten by the military-industrial intelligence complex, which is more frightening? It's no wonder this evening's topic has piqued your interest. Last week also saw Julian Assange return as a free man to his family in Australia after a 14-year battle with the United States. That came as a great relief to many. And while it is unfortunate that some continue their facile criticisms of Assange, as I wrote last week, the 150-page perfected grounds of appeal, which was filed in his case in readiness for his appeal, reads as a summary of the brutality of the United States' action on a global scale. In the context of AUKUS, all Australians should be asking larger questions about the undercurrent of always selfish and often criminal activity that taints the United States' role in global affairs, and their desirability and the desirability of Australia being tied in a close relationship with it. Before we